Good morning, or whenever you're watching this video on a very special day of Bhagavad Gita Sadhana. Today, as many of you know, is the big eclipse that crosses over part of the world, bringing totality. And we talked a little bit about illusion in previous videos and how we choose to view the world around us. Did I just go on? Sometimes it's hard to tell with YouTube, so I'll repeat. Welcome, day of big eclipse. We had talked a bit about illusion and how some people choose to view reality. I mean, there are many different layers of reality. So for some people, an eclipse is an unlucky thing for some traditions. But for some, it's a hugely lucky thing. In the yogic tradition, we have a couple of items to consider. And thank you to Kathy, who taught that amazing solar eclipse class yesterday and parsed out a lot of wisdom. You can still get the recording if you want to get more tidbits like this. So, for example, it is said that during the time of the eclipse, the best thing we can do is meditate and go within because the earth is getting dark. And if we have a particular mantra or sacred phrase, if we repeat it, especially during totality or the time of totality of the eclipse, if we do 100 rounds, this is how it's said, 100 rounds, which we would usually do 108 because that's a sacred number, of any mantra, it would be like doing it a million times any other time. So this actually really corresponds with the idea in yogic thought that when it's darkest, and we don't just mean physical, but emotionally dark, when the world seems to be going dark around us, that's when spiritual practice is most potent. We might think there's nothing I can do, but anything we can do when it's dark brings more light to the world than anything we do when life is easy. And actually, that's one of the reasons the Gita said on a battlefield, Arjun's going to do something super hard, try to kill his own relatives. Anything he can do yogically in this time of crisis is going to impact the world far more than if he were doing it, let's say, before the war, years before the war, before he even knew it was going to happen, or years after the war when, spoiler alert, he wins. Okay. So consider that today. And during our meditation, I'll invite you to do any sort of mantra. If you want to get 108 in during totality, I'd say make them very, very short because I've tried. Like if you're doing the Mahamrityunjaya, which is perfect, and you don't have to get all 100, it will multiply whatever number of rounds you get in that time. You're not going to get 108 rounds of Mahamrit unless you're super Mahamrit person. But anything like Om, even Om, or how Om shows up in other traditions like Amen, Shalom, anything from your spiritual background that you want to do. Okay, so you can practice it today, and we'll be doing 5 minutes. You can notice maybe, I don't know if you can keep count if you have a mala. You can keep count of how many you get through and then notice, can I get 100 done during the totality? See, this appeals to me because I very much like to get things done. And we're moving into a very special time after the eclipse, a time of Navaratri, celebration of the divine feminine in all her guises. Now, we're going to finish up with our brief exploration of chapter 7, noticing if this is a path you want to explore, the yoga of knowledge and special knowledge, the yoga of knowing something intellectually, but then also knowing it practically. And we're going to do a couple verses from the Gita in which Krishna starts to express just how complex he is. Now, what you might not know is that there are other characters in the Mahabharata named Krishna, and one named Krishna, and that is the feminine version of Krishna. Krishna is the masculine form, Krishna, feminine. And indeed, Krishna in these verses seems to imply that he also embraces the feminine aspect of his nature. Fun biological fact, all embryos that turn into fetuses in the womb are female at first. And only after getting a hormone bath do they become male. So we are all feminine at heart. And Krishna acknowledges this in the Gita. I'm going to look at verses 7:5 and 7:6 if you have any of your books and want to follow along. So I'm going to give the more poetic version, and then I'll talk to you a little bit about some of the exact words used in Sanskrit. So verse 7:5, Krishna is saying, from this more crude nature, know that I have a distinct higher part, the very life force mighty one, by which this whole world is sustained. These dual natures are the womb from which every living thing springs. I am the source of the cosmos and also its dissolution. So here Krishna is starting to reveal his true nature to his best friend, who really doesn't know him that well at all. He talks about being higher nature, but also more crude nature. And the word for nature in Sanskrit is prakriti. And kind of like in our English language, nature can mean like nature, or we have our own nature, right? Same thing in Sanskrit. Prakriti is nature, but also your own nature. So Krishna has his own nature, and it's linked to nature, and nature is feminine. So now he's talking about the feminine aspects of himself from which all life springs. So we'll be like Krishna the next few days and embrace the feminine and all of its qualities. I'll say her qualities. Now, if you can see the fingernail graphic for this video, at any point, I've got a list of the colors for each day of Navaratri, and I invite you to wear the colors. And if you can't see that, then right in the summary below, there's a link you can click on where you can see the graphic. Each color represents an aspect of the divine feminine that we can tap into. Tomorrow's color is red for vitality, and I'll be talking in the next 9 days about 9 aspects of the divine feminine and how they are connected to the Gita. Ooh, I hope you will tune in for that. Until that point, though, we have a practice to do. Shall we? We'll do the physical part. And I'm so happy I can almost have the tech outside. It's threatening rain, but door open. Yay. Let's switch. All right. Mantra time if you'd like. Any mantra. Oops. Here we go. Any mantra from any faith tradition, like Hail Mary, 1. See you in 5. Welcome back. So even if you didn't get 100 rounds in, at least now, if you enjoy this concept, when totality hits, you'll have an idea of what mantra you may wish to use. Um, I look forward to seeing you on the other side. Today's practice is dedicated to Dawn Staley, who is not only a Devi, a divine feminine being in herself, but is bringing up the next generation of Devis as well. So we'll see you for a celebration of Devi, the divine feminine, for Navaratri, 9 nights starting tomorrow. Until then, can't wait.